All right, welcome, guys. So, this is going to be a full guide on how to master the mental chaos. Basically, how you can become a master and the leader of your own mind, rather than your mind being the master of you, and rather than your mind controlling you, right? So, first things first, the mental chaos, right? What is it? What makes up the mental chaos? And then I'm just going to talk about how to fix each of these things. So, the first thing is going to be the internal chatter, the mind constantly talking, right? The mind likes to talk. The mind likes to process information, and one of the ways it does this is through thinking. But what we can end up doing is getting too stuck in our mind, too stuck in these thoughts, and they end up kind of controlling us and becoming the majority of our day to day experience, right? And this is not very healthy at all. If I'm being honest, this is very unhealthy. This is very, very bad for our psyche because we are not really meant to be in the mind 24/7. We're meant to be in the body. We're meant to be in reality. We're meant to be in the present moment. The mind is a tool. The mind is simply a tool meant to process the information that we're experiencing. But when we're constantly tuned into the mind and constantly thinking, we create an overabundance of internal chatter. We create too much internal conversation, and this confuses the mind and makes it very hard for it to accurately process information and accurately change things and improve, right? So then we end up with addictions, and we end up with procrastination, and we end up with all of these weird things that we should not be struggling with, right? And this is because we are overusing our mind, overusing our brain, and tuning into it too much. We have too much consciousness in the mind, right? We need more of our consciousness to be in the body. The next thing is going to be hormones and neurotransmitters. So, a lot of our hormones can be out of whack. A lot of our hormones can be unbalanced. And those with good control of their mind are going to have a balanced hormonal state, because what this means is that there is no extra or no lack in the hormonal imbalances and neurotransmitters as well. There's going to be no extra and there's going to be no lack. So if we're talking like dopamine as a neurotransmitter, there's not going to be too much dopamine in the brain, meaning that we are overstimulated, and there's never going to be too little dopamine in the brain, meaning that we're understimulating. This is a healthy mind. Most of us have either too much or too little. Most of us have too much estrogen or not enough testosterone, right? Most of us have these hormonal imbalances that cause anxiety, that cause stress in the mind, right? Testosterone is the hormone that for us men, and just in general, is what actually allows us to not feel this anxiety and overwhelmed feeling when it comes to life, right? We get overwhelmed only when we don't have the testosterone required to handle it, right? So another thing is going to be your emotions and your energy are going to determine your mind, because your emotions are the hormonal release of energy in the body. And then your energy is just that. It's your energetic field. It is your internal body. And this energy influences everything that you are. So of course, the main thing it is going to influence is your psyche. It is going to influence your mind and how you think, how you present yourself, right? So the next thing is going to be diet. So your diet being in your gut, 97% of your neurons are in your gut. So everything that you put into your gut is going directly into your brain. Like literally, it's going directly into your brain. So what are we doing when we're eating things like McDonald's, or we're eating junk food, or we're eating candy, like just bullshit, sugary foods? Is we're basically putting it right into our brains, right into our minds. And so we feel brain fog, we feel lethargic, we feel lazy as a result of putting this shitty food into our brain, right? Opposite happens if we eat a lot of vegetables and fruit. I feel great right now, right? I feel clear mentally and very energetic physically, but not anxious energetic. Just I could go and work out for 4 hours and feel great the whole time. I just have energy to use, right? This is because I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables lead to a clarity of the mind, a clear energy, and an abundance of it, and sustainable energy as well, right? So when we're eating good foods, we're going to have clarity in our mind. We're going to be able to think clearly. We're going to be able to work fully, right? And we're going to have an abundance of energy, but not in a way that feels overwhelming, rather in a way that feels unlimited, right? So our diet is going to directly determine how we feel, as well as our mind and how we're able to think, how well we're able to create ideas in our mind, and how well we're able to work through problems, right? So now I've broken it down into each of those 4 categories, and now I'm going to teach you how to overcome each individually. So the first section is going to be the internal chatter. What can we do about this internal chatter? So if we are currently stuck in our minds, if we are currently hearing all of the thoughts, and if our mind is overthinking, what we can do is we can just observe, right? Just become aware. And this is really all you can do at this point, is just become aware. Just observe, right? Just observe the thoughts, become aware of the thoughts, watch them, right? See what they are, try to understand them, try to learn about them. This process took me about a year. Maybe a little bit less, but about a year. And so what we do is we observe the thoughts. We observe what's going on in our mind. We observe who we are, right? Who we're being, how we're reacting to things, right? And as we do this, like I'm still doing this now, but when I said that it took me a year to get to a certain point, that certain point is when we are going to be able to learn how to dissolve the thoughts, right? So right now we're just trying to become aware and understand. We do not have enough consciousness to change the thought yet, but over time we will develop the level of consciousness, right? Because we are observing and pulling our consciousness back out of the mind. And what this does is essentially takes the consciousness from the thoughts that's constantly running, and now we are the consciousness. We have that consciousness. We are the awareness now. And from that point, we can actually dissolve those thoughts. So we can take the thoughts that we don't like, we can dissolve them and break them down, break down these aspects of ourself, break down these aspects of our psyche, right? And then we can rebuild them the way that we want. So what we're doing right now is we are just becoming aware. We are observing those thoughts, and we are allowing them to be. We are accepting them. We are not trying to change them. We are not trying to force them out of our mind, but just letting them be and observing them, while also trying to keep our attention on the present moment as much as possible. Anytime our attention is distracted from the present moment into the mind, we just observe. Over time, we will get better and better at keeping our consciousness in the present moment over the mind. And when we can do this, this is when we are ready to start dissolving the thoughts. So once you've dissolved the thought, now you can start to actually redirect your attention into the present moment, right? So we become aware of the thought, and we have now pulled our consciousness back. So now we can actually become aware. We can become present again. We can get out of the mind, right? Then you dissolve the thought. You dissolve it. You break it down. You allow it to turn back into raw energy. And then you instantly want to redirect your attention back into the present moment. Because what will happen is if you stay in the mind, a new thought will pop up, and you will just end up stuck in the cycle again. So what we want to do is redirect our attention back to the present. Once we're in the present moment again, then we're essentially clear. Then we're good. Then we can just keep doing what we're doing until the next thought pops up. And the longer we do this, or the more we do this, the longer the time between thoughts will be, right? The longer the time that we're present for will be. So the last thing I have for internal chatter, it's a separate practice, but it's just becoming aware of your thoughts through journaling. So basically just journal any extra thoughts that you have, any thoughts that you are having throughout the day. At night, if you're thinking, journal all of those thoughts onto paper, right? What this does is it essentially gets all of these thoughts out onto paper, and so it relieves the stress from our mind, because our mind no longer has to continuously contemplate up here, right? We just get it all onto paper and we can see it there, right? The next thing, the next section is going to be hormonal imbalances and fried dopamine receptors. So for hormonal imbalances, we do want to look at diet. I have a separate section for diet, but it is important to emphasize the fact that our diet can directly affect our hormones and how how healthy our body is hormonally, right? So how much testosterone we're producing and releasing versus how much estrogen, right? This is going to be determined a lot by our diet. Because the building blocks of creating these hormones is going to be in our diet and the food that we eat, but also because our diet, excuse me, but also because our diet is going to directly affect the type of hormones that we can produce. So you want to look at what you're eating, right, and how you're eating. The next thing is going to be exercise, right? If we have low testosterone, for example, right, we want to be exercising, we want to be working out, right? Because this will increase our testosterone almost forcibly, right? Not necessarily forcing it, but we are basically telling our body like, hey, you can't be lazy anymore. And then what this does is it starts to produce more testosterone in the body, and this happens over a period of time, right? You don't just go to the gym once and then your body's like, oh fuck, let's produce more testosterone. You do get a boost of testosterone just from going to the gym, but what I'm talking about is long-term increases, long-term growths of overall testosterone production. So what we want to do is we want to be exercising consistently, because this will put us in a healthy hormonal state, right? Because we are moving and exercising like a healthy human should be. And so this will allow our body to naturally produce the right amount of testosterone and get rid of extra estrogen. Because what estrogen does, for men at least, is it makes us struggle more in our workouts. It makes them more painful, more uncomfortable, more stressful, more... Ugh. It like drags it out. It makes it feel like I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. Testosterone is like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's hit this weight, right? Testosterone is like excited to work, excited to put forth effort. And so when we're exercising, we're forcing our body to put forth effort. And so our body will naturally respond by giving us more testosterone. So this effort is easier the next time. And another thing that can help, exercise can help with your dopamine as well, just because the pain, the discomfort of dopamine leads to an increase and a rise of dopamine afterwards. So if we are, let's say we're overstimulated we don't have enough dopamine, right? So we've had a crash from overstimulation of dopamine. What we can do is we can work out, and this will temporarily make our dopamine go down a little more, but it will increase afterwards. It will have a spike afterwards, and the spike won't just go up and drop. It'll stay consistent because it's a healthy spike. Healthy spikes in dopamine stay. They remain. They don't drop. You know it's an unhealthy spike of dopamine when it goes up and then immediately drops back down below your baseline, right? So I just went from being here chilling to, oh wow, this is some great cocaine, and then now I'm down here, or whatever. Like, this is a great TikTok video and now I'm down here, right? Healthy dopamine spikes will be consistent. So healthy dopamine spikes will stay, and they will go up over time. So let's say I'm working out and I go down a little bit, then I go up. I'm like right here now. Then I hit another workout, right? And then another one. And I'm continuously rising with this, whereas something like TikTok, you're continuously going to be dropping further down, right? So you're going to keep going further down into the rabbit hole. So the next thing I have is semen retention. So anybody with a hormonal imbalance, anybody who has too much estrogen, for example, and not enough testosterone, semen retention will instantly fix this for you. And not instantly, because it takes a long time to master semen retention, but within a week, your testosterone spikes the most. And then after that week, what happens is your androgen receptor sensitivity increases. So people talk about, after a week of semen retention, that's when your testosterone spikes, and then after that point it goes down. So then that means semen retention only works for a certain period of time. This is false. So what happens is, instead of us having more free base testosterone flowing through our blood, what our body does is it increases our androgen receptor sensitivity, which is the receptor that testosterone binds to in order to give us things like increased strength, increased pleasure in doing hard things, and increased desire to improve, I guess, right? So any of the testosterone symptoms you're talking about, I just named a few, or you're thinking about rather, I just named a few. All of these responses happen as a result of the androgen receptor sensitivity, how sensitive your androgen receptors are. What happens with consistent release over long periods of time is these receptors become weaker and they don't pick up dopamine. I keep saying dopamine. They don't pick up testosterone as easily, right? So what we want to do is we want to do semen retention. We want to retain the seed, and this will heal our androgen receptors. This will heal our testicles, meaning we can produce the proper amount of testosterone, right? Because what masturbation does and what release does over time is it damages the testicles, meaning the organ in our body responsible for making our testosterone is weak, is damaged. And what this leads to is low testosterone, obviously. So we are healing this part of our body, and then we are healing our androgen receptors, making us more susceptible to this testosterone. And then that will allow us to then have a balanced hormone level. And semen retention can do the same thing with dopamine as well. So because we are now refraining from things like pornography, and if it's with women, the dopamine that you get from chasing different women, right? When we're refraining from this extra dopamine, we give ourselves a chance to actually reset our dopamine receptors and actually reset our brain and our dopamine receptor sensitivity, right? So now, because over the longest time we have been, okay, sorry about the background noise. Being in the middle of the house, having the bedroom in the middle of the house isn't always the greatest when you want to be a YouTuber. But anyways, when we're retaining our seed, we are refraining from things like pornography. We are refraining from like dating apps and shit, and going out and going to clubs and getting women at clubs, right? This is all huge dopamine spikes. And now that we're not, going after this, and release itself is a major dopamine spike, right? So now that we're not getting all of this extra dopamine, we're giving our brain the chance to reset itself, and so balancing and regulating our dopamine. So another thing specifically for dopamine is going to be a dopamine detox. So for the same reason that semen retention works for dopamine, because we're refraining from these huge spikes in dopamine, we give our chance, the self, we give ourselves the chance, we give ourselves the chance to actually heal and regulate the dopamine in our brain, regulate the dopamine receptors, right? So when we're constantly watching TikTok all day, what happens is we are spiking dopamine every single time we scroll, right? And what I explained earlier, every single spike is also leading to a dip, right? So every single swipe, every single scroll is a spike in dopamine. And then every time we get off TikTok, you are going to experience the drop. So what do we do if we remove things like TikTok, remove things like YouTube, remove things like drugs and alcohol that give us this fake dopamine, this fake pleasure, right? If we remove them, now we're actually free to, after we've reset our dopamine receptors, get dopamine and get joy and pleasure from doing the things that actually will increase our energy and our pleasure over time, right? So we can actually do productive things. We can actually have fun doing truly fun things, right? I don't like to say that doing the reading and doing the workout and doing the work is the harder thing, right? I actually think it's harder to be stuck in addiction. I think it's a lot harder to be stuck desiring a different life, but doing the thing that's giving you the opposite, right? I find much, much, much more pleasure in building myself and building my business and building my knowledge and building my body, right? So I actually think these are the truly pleasurable things. These are the truly fun things in life, right? But we have fried our dopamine receptors so much that these things no longer seem fun to us. So what we'll do in a dopamine detox is we'll reset and regulate the dopamine, giving us more control of our mind, right? Giving us more of an ability to regulate what is going on upstairs. But now, because we can get dopamine from things like reading, things like working out, right? Now we naturally have more mental control, more control over our mind, just because we don't have to try so hard to get ourselves to do these things, right? We don't have to try so hard to convince our mind to do these things, right? Our mind is naturally going to be susceptible to doing something because it wants that dopamine. When we're constantly frying our dopamine receptors, however, our brains no longer want to do hard things. Our brains no longer want to put in work. And so we end up with this mental conflict. We end up trying to fight with our mind to get it to do things, right? But this isn't how it should work. Our mind should be working for us. And so the last thing I have here is actually reading more books. So reading more books is going to help you balance your dopamine receptors, just because a lot of us are getting our information from YouTube videos or from courses and stuff. Books are just going to kind of relax your mind. Books are going to kind of allow you to just do something and still learn, but in a less dopaminergic way, right? And so this just kind of keeps you in more of a balanced state, right? And then just spending time in boredom or thinking, right? So all of these things, instead of, if I was bored right now and decided to go on YouTube, I pick up a book, or I just sit here thinking, or I just allow myself to be bored, right? This will balance the dopamine in my brain, essentially relieving the craving for me to go and watch YouTube. Because the craving to go and watch YouTube is just there because of a lack of dopamine, some dopamine missing somewhere, right? So the next thing is going to be emotional and energetic control. So we're going to need to learn how to control and manage our emotions and our energy levels and our energy body, rather. So meditation and breath work, right? So we want to be meditating consistently. This will allow us awareness and control over our mind and body, right? And this will allow us to become aware of energy and emotions as they come up. If you meditate for long enough, no matter who you are, some people will be more susceptible to this, but no matter who you are, if you meditate for long enough, eventually you will start to be able to tune into your energy body, right? And the energy in your field that actually leads to certain reactions in your body, and these reactions in your body are felt as emotions. Emotions are the release of hormones based on certain energetic signals from your energy body, right? So we need to learn how to manage and control both. We need to learn how to manage and control the emotions when they do come up, and we need to learn how to control the energy body so that we can prevent certain emotions before they even arise, right? So meditation is going to give you both. Meditation is going to allow you more awareness of your emotions, more control of your emotions, because you learn to control and be the master of the body, of the brain, right? And then breath work is going to do something similar, but it is going to specifically give you control over your nervous system, because breath, the prana, right, is the nervous energy. It's the nervous force. It's the animating force, right? So when we are breathing and we learn to consciously control our breath, we essentially learn how to control the entire system, because the nervous system is directed by the breath. So when we learn to control our breath, we control our entire system, the entire human system, right? And so the next thing is going to be finding healthy outlets for excess energy. So if we are too caught up in our mind, if we have too much stress up here and we're building up all of this energy, but we don't have an outlet for it, this is only going to create more and more tension, more chaos, and we're not going to be able to overcome this, and we're not going to be able to master our mind if it is constantly overproducing and overstoring energy. So what we need to do is we need to have healthy outlets for this excess energy, right? So that we can get this energy out and then manage what's left. We don't have to manage all of this abundance of stress and chaos in our body that's stored as physical energy. We get rid of that physical energy, come back to a sense of calm, a sense of clarity, right? And then what this will do, excuse me, is this will allow us to then actually work with our mind, right? Work with what is going on up in our mind, what is causing the stress and anxiety. But we need to have the healthy outlet for it in the first place. One healthy outlet for energy and emotions that I could mention here, and that I'm not going to go into, but look into it yourself, is pranayama. It's a type of breath work, but it is specifically made in order to transmute sexual energy. So this can be an outlet for your energy, because what it does is it transmutes the dense energy in the body into a subtle energy that can then be used in different things, whatever it is, business work, workouts, etc. But another thing that you should always have is exercise. You should always be exercising, in my opinion. I think that human beings should be spending the majority of their days exercising. Obviously, in our modern day, this isn't available for everybody. But my goal, my purpose is to be spending 6 to 8 hours a day exercising in some way, right? Not working on some business, not sitting on my ass staring at a computer. I love my businesses, but I refuse to spend the majority of my time, the majority of my day, sitting around staring at a computer, whatever I'm doing on that computer, right? It doesn't matter what's on the computer. It's simply the fact that as a human being, we should be outside, we should be moving, we should be exercising, we should be doing things, right? So find some sort of exercise, right? Work out consistently. If you've already worked out today and you feel this excess energy, go hit another workout, go for a run, go play some basketball, right? Go I don't know, go for a walk, go for a hike, go for a bike ride. Bike rides are nice, right? Go for a bike ride in nature. Bike rides are beautiful. I love going on bike rides, right? Do something active. Get this energy going somewhere. Get this energy moving somewhere, right? And then the last thing is going to be diet. So we want to be eating whole foods, straight up. No bullshit, no multiple ingredient foods. If you're buying something and you're looking at the back and it's a list, like a paragraph of ingredients, put it down. Don't eat that shit. That shit's nasty, right? Don't fucking put that in your body. Seriously. Like if you can tell me what all of those are, if you could tell me what half of those are, right? If you can read all the chemicals on the labels, right? And you can tell me exactly what half of those are and exactly what they do in your body, I don't care. Go for it. Try it. But I guarantee none of you can. Because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit, fake chemicals. It's all just being put in our body as an experiment to see how it reacts inside of a human body. That's all it is. Let's be honest. We're here in America. This is an experiment. They're just trying to test how many chemicals they can put into a human without killing it. And I refuse to be a lab rat. So I'm not going to be buying that shit. I'm not going to be buying that food. I'm going to be buying whole foods. I'm going to be buying vegetables. I'm going to be buying meat. I'm going to be buying rice and potatoes. And I'm going to be buying fruit. Nothing else. I don't need anything else. I don't want to be eating anything else. Nuts, maybe. Nothing else, right? I don't want to eat food that isn't food. I only want to be eating true food, actual food, right? So, simple fix. Stop buying things that are multiple ingredients, right? Only buy things that are single ingredients and then cook with that food. Don't give me some bullshit like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I need those 3 hours a day. Put the effort into yourself, right? Like, put the effort into yourself. It's worth it, right? If your business is so important that you need to be spending 100% of your day focused and fixated on that, hire a cook then. If your business is that important, you have the money to hire a cook. But honestly, most of you have a couple hours a day to do a little bit of meal prep. Maybe even not every day. Meal prep once a week, right? You can always meal prep once a week, right? But put the time in to actually cook for yourself. That way you know that you are making whole food meals, right? Whole food meals is all you really need. Create a diet within that. But as long as it is whole foods, you should be fine. And then focusing on vegetables and fruit. So specifically when it comes to the mind, when it comes to controlling our mental chaos and mastering the mind, right? We want to be eating fruits and vegetables, because fruits and vegetables, as I mentioned earlier, will essentially clear the mind. It will clean up the gut, it'll clean up the mind, and then it will allow you more clarity. That way you can actually work within your mind on things without a constant sense of fog, or it feeling heavy or slow moving through your brain, right? So specifically focusing on more fruits and more vegetables, and this will allow us to feel a lot better, and it will allow our mind to be a lot clearer, because as I mentioned, the mind is in the gut, at least 97% of it. So yeah, that's my full guide on mastering the mental chaos and the different components of mental chaos, right? I hope this helped. If you are interested in more information about the mind, how to navigate it, or anything else self-improvement, you can press subscribe. But other than that, I'm out. Peace.